The Sims-like Inzoi shares full PC hardware requirements and a look at how different settings compare. Inzoi is the upcoming life simulation game developed on Unreal Engine 5, and it is going to be a demanding title. Inzoi Studios, the developer of the game, has shared detailed system requirements for the optimal experience at different visual settings and to enjoy the game at the high preset. A Ryzen 7 9800X 3D is recommended. The 9800X 3D is one of the most powerful gaming CPUs on the market, if not the most powerful, and Inzoi seems heavy enough to demand that much power. Inzoi, or Inzoi as Krafton would have it, is described as complete community simulation where every character acts on their free will. It promises to give players the tools to alter any aspect of their world to create unique stories and experiences, alongside the likes of jobs and deep relationships through interactions. It's also leaning hard on the customization side of things, showcasing remarkably detailed characters and elaborate homes. Inzoi's PC hardware requirements seem to be quite scalable, allowing much older CPUs and GPUs to still offer a playable experience. Krafton has announced the hardware requirements for its upcoming life sim, Inzoi. In a post on its official website, the company has laid out what it refers to as the minimum, medium, recommended, and high hardware requirements for the game. At bare minimum, Inzoi will require either an Intel i5 10400 or AMD Ryzen 5 3600 CPU, 12 GB of RAM, an NVIDIA RTX 2060, 6 GB VRAM, or an AMD Radeon RX 5600 XT, 6 GB VRAM, GPU, and 40 GB of storage. Inzoi initially comes to PC as an early access release. It'll be available on Steam from March 28th, and Krafton says it'll continue working on optimizations to improve performance while finding ways to lower system requirements without compromising overall quality. The medium requirements list an Intel i7 11700 or AMD Ryzen 7 5800X 3D CPU, 16 GB of RAM, an NVIDIA RTX 3060, 8 GB VRAM, or an AMD Radeon RX 6600, 8 GB VRAM, GPU, and 50 GB of storage. The recommended requirements need an Intel i7 12700K or an AMD Ryzen 7 7800X 3D CPU, 16 GB of RAM, an NVIDIA RTX 3070, 8 GB VRAM, or an AMD Radeon RX 6800 XT, 16 GB VRAM, GPU, and 60 GB of storage. On the high side of things, the requirements need an Intel i7 14700K or an AMD Ryzen 7 9800X 3D CPU, 32 GB of RAM, an NVIDIA RTX 4080, 16 GB of VRAM, or an AMD Radeon RX 7900 XTX, 24 GB of VRAM, and 75 GB of storage. It is worth noting that hardware requirements for Inzoi indicate that the game is highly scalable, with CPUs as old as 5 generations still being supported, albeit listed under the bare minimum necessary to run the game. The scaling storage requirements also indicate that Inzoi will allow players to download a variety of quality-based texture packs, depending on their hardware. As mentioned earlier, Inzoi delivers high-quality graphics and realistic city-level simulations, which require higher system specifications, wrote Krafton on its website. While these requirements ensure the best possible gameplay experience, we remain committed to making Inzoi accessible to more players. Inzoi is an upcoming life simulator in the vein of classic titles like The Sims. The game is being developed in Unreal Engine 5 and will feature an incredibly high level of visual fidelity. It is slated for an early access release on PC on March 28th. Leading up to its release, Inzoi will also be getting a developer showcase on March 19th that will reveal details on price, DLC, and the post-launch content roadmap.